Hey, everybody, you're listening to the Total Bases podcast. I'm your host, Felipe, and with me is my guest for this evening, Melvin Lopez. Melvin, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you? Thanks for having me once
Oh, thanks for
again.
coming on, bro. I really appreciate it. I'm doing well myself. And for those who are listening, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at the Life Group Podcast. That is where the other Life Group shows are housed, notably the Total Bases Podcast, which is this episode or this show, and of course we can't forget the other baseball show, Dong City, which they say they're not. They say they're on hiatus, but any moment now, I feel like they're gonna get back together
They're
and
coming back soon. Yeah, I'm
and
pretty
they're gonna
sure.
come back soon and give the people what they want there as well.
Right.
And I'm not sure about the other podcasts, but definitely this one's still around. The baseball podcasts are still around. And of course, we got our Spotify channel as well. Check us out over there. But most importantly, Melvin, as you know, the reason that we're together and that we met is because of the
That's right.
Baseball Life Facebook group.
That's right. Baseball Live, the best baseball group over there on Facebook. Go check it out.
Tell the
It's
people out there why it is the best baseball group in Facebook on Facebook.
because people just talk and they kind of know what they're talking about, and whatever. It's kind of like and the people that you when somebody comes in kind of sideways, I was like, this guy's not gonna last around here too long. And lo and behold, they don't, and that's okay. We love them still, and we're very gracious. We welcome some folks back. Um,
Yeah, sometimes,
yeah,
sometimes.
we're accepting of all franchises, and we don't take it too hard on the rivalry and everything. We don't take it too seriously, which makes it more fun. So it's all good. We're very knowledgeable as well. So
And speaking of knowledge, I see that you posted not too long ago where Craig Counsell goes, we should, as the Cubs manager, he goes, we should try to be building 90 win teams around here. It's a hell of a concept, right? 90 wins.
I,
That's
I
wow.
mean, imagine that. I mean, I just
Hold on, buddy. You're paying this guy $8 million a year just to say things like that.
and you know what? I get
Mm,
it. He's an Ivy League kind of dude. He's kind of a brain, and that's the kind of player he was. You always need a guy like that to win. I remember guys like him, David Eckstein. They're a certain kind of player. However, those guys sometimes sound a little too smart for their own good, and I think that's exactly what's going on with Craig Counsell at this scenario. This season did not go as expected at all. This man was brought in as the highest paid manager in a league that includes Bruce Bochy, who is going straight into the Hall of Fame, in a league that includes Bruce Bochy with 4 World Series titles. He's still paid a little higher than that. So, I mean, so Craig Counsell's expected, and he was brought to Chicago with very high expectations. Everybody knows about the story with Milwaukee, so I
yeah.
mean, and they did make it. So
Were you expecting the Cubs to do anything this
you were
year?
expecting the Cubs to get past the regular season. Right now, they're not even going to make the playoffs, it seems. So the Cubs were at least at the very least they were expected to be a solid wild card, because that would have been an improvement over last year.
Right.
So an improvement over last year. I think they waited a little too late to unload on Morel, but it's what it is, and their rotation took a hit. They've been banged, but they've been a slightly above 500 team, so they have a positive run differential. They've been all right. They need a franchise player. They need a difference maker.
Yeah.
So that's what they don't have.
They definitely
So
don't have it. It's not Ian Happ. It's
they
not Nico
need
Horner. It's
they
not
need
Dansby
a
Swanson.
they need the type of player that you would give 8 million and 8 years and 240.
And it's
They
not in
need
their
that
minor
type of player.
and it's not in their minor league system. I don't care what Cub
And
fans
it's
tell me.
not.
It's
I
not in
mean,
it's
you
not in
can
the
you
farm
can tell me
system.
about PCA all day, and
Mm-mm.
he's gonna be. I still see a lot of Kevin Kiermaier
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and that, not that having a Kevin Kiermaier in the outfield is bad,
Hmm.
but Kevin Kiermaier was never gonna be the MVP of his own team,
Right.
and today's baseball, you need both. I don't know. I mean, I like Horton. I like what's in the pitching staff. I like Wicks, even though he doesn't miss as many bats as I like for them to miss.
Right.
Javier side is starting to get figured out, so he needs to an adjustment badly this offseason.
Yeah.
And
There's
and
nothing there,
like
man.
there's a huge gap between Milwaukee and Chicago, and it looks like it's still Milwaukee's division. So
Oh,
until they decide that the same people that wanted to buy Chelsea FC the Ricketts, and now want to say they don't have any money. For those of you, I know this is a baseball podcast, but for those of you who aren't familiar with Chelsea FC, go see to see how much they're worth. This Chelsea, like the girl, like the name Chelsea FC. The Ricketts were in the bidding to buy that football club, that soccer club.
Yep.
Now they want to play cheap and say, well, we can't afford a guy like Otani or Soto or Judge. The Cubs need a guy like that. And they don't have it. So we shall see what happens next.
Yeah, and I see that the Cubs have a lot of players in the Fangraphs top 100, but like you said, they're nice players, but there's a lot of question marks. When I look at this list of players, I don't get that same feeling I used to get when I used to read about Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo, Javier
Because
Baez,
those
Addison
guys,
Russell.
you could see the MVP clause in there.
Yeah.
You could see the MVP clause in Chris Bryant. You could see that the MVP clause and Anthony Rizzo. Even, you know what? I know I'm gonna catch some homerism for this, but even Javi when he was younger, and the guy did finish second 1 year, so he did have one really good year, and you could see that there was a different echelon of player there.
Oh yeah.
There's there's a different echelon of player. There's the MVP, there's the MVP superstar, and then there's the all-star.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I gonna say Pete Crow Armstrong may make a couple of all-star games, but I don't see MVP superstar in him yet. That's what I don't see.
Yeah, the
now,
glove is there,
really
but
would
not
love for him to prove me wrong as a Cubs fan myself. But so far, what he has shown is that he is a plus bat with plus defense, which turns into a 5-WAR guy, which turns into a guy like Kevin Kiermaier, which is not a bad piece to have in a championship team, but a guy alone like that is not going to get you home.
Yeah, I don't see it from the bat. Every once in a while, he'll show glimpses, so I'll give him his props in that regard.
He's got high slugging because he can leg it. He's going to hit a lot of triples at Wrigley. So that's going to help the slugging percentage. But OBP, I need him to get to 330 consistently on OBP, and then we start talking. You see what I'm saying? That OBP is still in the 300, and that is not a good that is not a major league OBP.
And the other problem there is that the Brewers, I mean, if the Cubs aren't going to go out and spend money, and if they don't have the minor league players, well, the Brewers do. The Brewers every year they somehow find ways to develop players, get players on the cheap. If a pitcher goes down, they have a guy ready to go. They always find ways to replace. They don't use injuries as an excuse for failure. If anything, it's just an excuse for them to bring up players that they were wanting to bring up anyway. The Cubs, they get hurt. Oh well, Dansby Swanson's hurt. Oh well, we lost Brendan Davis. He's hurt again. There is no next man. Not in the Cubs, because they don't have it. And by the way, the Javier Baez, speaking of it, Javier Baez had it. He had it. You could tell it from a mile away.
You could tell those guys had it. Like like when you talk about a can't miss prospect. Now, health has betrayed Chris Bryant, but 10 years ago, you would have bet that Chris Bryant was going to win an MVP, and you would have won because he was an MVP type of player. Right now, when I look at the Cubs, I don't see an MVP type player yet. Now, I would love for one of these kids to prove me wrong. Owen Casey has taken, but then again, we're talking about an all-star. We're talking about there's no superstar. Owen Casey could be an all-star. I don't see superstar just yet.
Yeah.
But please prove me wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. This is when I've been on this train with this new batch of Cubs prospects that Jed Hoyer is trying to build up now that Theo Epstein is out of the picture. And Cub fans they've been telling me for years, hey, we're gonna do the exact same thing that Theo did with Russell, with Contreras, with Rizzo, with Brian, with Hobby. We're gonna redo that again. And I look at these prospects like, I'm not seeing them, man. They're nice players. They're like you said, they're not hell. Some of these players are not even in the top 100 anymore. Caleb Killian, remember Caleb Killian?
Let's not deny the fact that Theo got lucky with 2 trades. Theo got lucky with the Arrieta and Stroke trade and the Kyle Hendricks trade. He got a lot of mileage from those 2 trades, and he was not. You're not supposed to get lucky with 2 trades like that, especially that Jake Arrieta trade. Those trades really had to fall into place, and my goodness, bringing Dexter Fowler back really helped the 2016 Cubs as well.
You
If
can,
Dexter Fowler doesn't come back, I don't see that team winning.
yeah. I mean, that was one of the greatest. I remember reading a fan, and of course, I try to look it up again, and I can't find that exact article I read, but somebody on Fangraphs wrote that this just might be in 2016 the greatest fielding team of all time. And you look at that team, and you look at how the pitching did, especially the bullpen. Bullpen was somewhere in the middle of the pack, from what I remembered. Well, the reason that they got away with a middle of the pack bullpen and somewhat of a shaky starting pitching from once in a while is because their defense grabbed everything. They snatched up everything.
They
They
did, and
gobbled
even
it up.
Addison Russell would not. I mean,
Oh, he
my
was
goodness,
amazing.
like, and even on the bench, they had Almora on the bench. That kid
Yeah.
could field, and his bat never developed, but he's still playing in the winter leagues. He's still got defensive value.
And they had three badass catchers there with Contreras, Miguel Montero, uh, David Ross.
David Ross, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, well, why can't they just run on John Lester all the time? Because David Ross doesn't allow that.
Right.
I mean, they had such good rapport from their days in Boston. They just brought it to Chicago, and nobody ran on David Ross either.
Right.
So, but I was gonna say Caleb Killian. I don't even see him in the top 100 anymore. Like he was a hot shot
He's
prospect
the
when we
guy that we
acquired
got
him.
for Chris
The
Bryant.
for the Giants, I believe.
Yeah, we got him for Bryant.
And now he's not on the list anymore. He's already 27 years old and can't control his walks.
He came up a couple times and he did not do so well. I mean, again, that's why I love baseball, because he's so unpredictable. It's predictable, but it's also so unpredictable with these kids. I mean, when the way I mean, look at Brendan Davis, Ed Howard. They have the tools, but something happens between. I speak to a lot of former major leaguers in the winter leagues, and they tell me something happens between AA and AAA. That's the jump right there.
Yeah.
The difference between AA and AAA is larger than the difference between MLB and AAA. That's what I've been told by not me. That's what I've been told by former major leaguers. The difference between AA and AAA, that's where if a player can get over the hump, but they can get over that AA hump. That's what and AA, that's where a lot of dreams die. When the guys get over AA, that's when they really, really, really have a chance. And and a lot of guys when they get to AAA, that's where they can't make that jump. But
a couple more names.
Hopefully they prove me wrong.
Couple more names for you. Matt Mervis, remember him? Alexander Canario, remember him?
That was Vince's guy.
Matt Mervis, yeah.
Mervis, yeah, I remember that guy. And
Jewish.
he reminded me of, what was his name? Bird from the Yankees back in the day.
Greg Bird.
Greg Bird, yeah.
Maybe that's why Vince loved him.
That's all for two on Greg Bird. I know I'm gonna get it on Don City for that one.
But no, but seriously, I mean, these Matt Mervis and Alexander Canario were at one point highly touted prospects, and now they're afterthoughts. Just like that.
Canario got hurt in the winter league, but that's just such as part of the game. Yeah. But that now Alcantara. Now you hear more about Owen Casey. You hear more about, and once PCA came up here, now you start hearing more about Casey, more and less about. I think Alcantara is still highly touted, but Matt Shaw is the name that you're hearing a lot about now. So we'll see which one of these guys is gonna step up and be that one player, that franchise player. It's up to. Remember when back in WWE when Austin left in 2002 and Vince rounded everybody and said, "Who's gonna be next? Ruthless aggression. Who's gonna be next?" That's where the Cubs are right now. Who's next? Who's gonna be the franchise?
Well,
that's what you need.
It's who's next, because everybody else has failed, and that's a problem. And they're getting lucky because they are getting some highly touted prospects back, but eventually either they hit and you get lucky with these guys and they become the next batch of core players that's gonna take this Cubs team into the World Series or deep into the playoff runs and get over the hump against Milwaukee. We're talking about Milwaukee like there's some sort of dynasty. And there's this stupid ass division. Like the Cubs, don't get me started, man. I'm sick of like both the Cubs and the White Sox. They're the large market teams, and they're being controlled by these small market pipsqueak teams like Milwaukee, who Milwaukee won't even spend any money. But you know what Milwaukee has that the Cubs don't have? Some guy named Jackson Chourio, a bona fide superstar player. The ones that you were looking for
the next 10 years for $100 million, which is absolute chump change in baseball terms, because he's got 7 years on the deal, and then he's got 2 years for a team option. So he's got 9 years at 90 million. You got that guy for 90 million for his whole prime until age 29. Man, it'd be good for baseball if that kid stays healthy, because
Well, the youngest player to, I think I read that he was the youngest player to get 2020,
2020. Yep.
the youngest
So
player of all time. So
that guy has that we need the Cubs need a guy like that, like the
yeah,
guy that you could be like, you know what, that guy's gonna get top 5 on MVP 7 straight seasons. Some guy like that, a guy that gets top 5 on MVP for 7 straight seasons and wins 2. What that type of player?
yep. And I already talked about their pitching staff. Like one guy goes down, that's okay. We'll just bring up the next guy. No worries. No worries. Why would
No
I worry?
worries at all.
Anyway, well, we're as much as I love talking about real baseball, we brought you in today because we're talking about fantasy baseball. And
Fantasy baseball, which I love playing, but I also take it a lot. Like I take a lot of real baseball into fantasy baseball. It's weird how I
you
play.
too, huh? Because 20 years ago, maybe around thereabouts, around the mid 2000s, I ran into this article about fantasy baseball. But even and this article basically was a reflection of the times of that time of that era, where they say you don't use real baseball to evaluate fantasy baseball and vice versa. You don't use fantasy baseball to evaluate real baseball. And this is a conversation I used to have with Sean, my old podcast partner, all the time. You fast forward to 2023, 2024, and now you can't tell when real baseball ends and when fantasy baseball begins, because I think they're now intertwined. I mean, this is the reason why I call it the Total Bases podcast, because I didn't want to just be limited to fantasy baseball talk. We just spent about 10 minutes talking about the Cubs and Brewers, but it's because I can't separate them. And now
Well,
with
I
all
mean, think
these,
about think about.
go
Let me
ahead.
let me give you an example. Let
Yeah.
me give you an example of what you're saying. You cannot separate them both, and you see how both influence each other. Check out this guy, Corbin Carroll. Now, if you talk to in real baseball, he's having a down year, quote unquote.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, however, how you can be a 2020 guy and have a down year, that's beyond me. Quote unquote, as more was expected from Corbin Carroll from a real baseball perspective. But in some leagues, he's the number 4 player still.
That's crazy because yeah, I
So
saw that he was off to a really
he's
horrid start, and then he has
yeah,
been
he had a really in real baseball terms, he had a really, really, really terrible start. I had to sit him down for like 5 weeks.
yeah.
Like he spent Corbin Carroll, uh, he was on my team, and in the Total Basis Fantasy League, and I had to sit him down. He spent like 5 weeks sitting down. And in real baseball terms, he's a 3 WAR player, and a lot of that is on defense because he plays center field, and he does it well because he's 21, 22 years old.
He's in his early
But
20s, right?
more was expected from Corbin Carroll. He had a down year on every offensive category in real baseball. He went from 868 OPS to 760, from 133 OPS plus to 109. So he's still an above average hitter, but he was expected to be more on the 130, 125, 125 and to 135 OPS plus, but he is on the 109 OPS plus. But on fantasy baseball, if you're in a league where stolen bases are high points, then he's gonna be your guy because he's gonna get out and he's gonna steal you 30 bases. He's got 30 stolen bases this year.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where how real baseball and fantasy baseball kind of like intertwine. A guy like Corbin Carroll, for example. That's the first example I could think of, and it just so happens that he's on my team.
Yeah. He stole 2 stolen bases for you in the championship game. We'll get to that, but it's pretty interesting that you're talking about that. The intertwinement of fantasy and real baseball, where it's not just what you mentioned about Corbin Carroll, but it's also we also in that same article I was alluding to, it did suggest we in fantasy baseball we really don't care about the scouty aspect of the game. We don't care about how good the curveball is or how good the fastball is. All we care is about results
Right.
because we're not scouting for baseball players. We're scouting for numbers, and that always felt weird to me. Like, well, it should translate. If a guy has a really good curveball, that should lead to more strikeouts, or that should lead to more innings pitched, more
More,
outs,
yeah, more
more
counting stats. Yeah,
more
more
counting
shit.
stats. But that was then. And then fast forward to 2024, now we got things like Statcast where they tell you so much. If you ever go into Baseball Savant, forget about
Yes.
it. You're never gonna get out. It's a big rabbit
I'm
hole.
always, it's on my, look, on my, for those of you who are watching, this is my phone screen. Baseball Savant is literally right there. I have it on, I have it,
Along with your kids.
I have a little, I have a little thing for Baseball Savant right there because
Oh,
I love it.
nice.
It's, you are absolutely right on that.
Yeah, but and if you listen to any of these fantasy baseball podcasts, they're always using baseball savant numbers, which is real baseball, right? Because they're measuring bat speed, launch angle, hard hit rates, things of that nature, curveball or revolutions per minute. It is revolutions per minute, right? It sounds right.
RPMs,
Uh,
yes.
velocity. So it's all these measurables, like these scientific measurables, right? What do we
Right.
need? Why do we need to know that for fantasy baseball? Well, these people on these podcasts, especially Eno Saris of the Athletic, they have found ways to explain, to use real life baseball application into fantasy baseball, where the faster you pitch, the more efficient you are, the more effective you're not efficient, but the more effective you are. There's a difference, right?
Right. Yes.
The more strikeouts, your stuff is better, and you're more dominant, right? So things like that, or the more doubles, more extra base hits, the more it correlates to more runs. Well, what does that have to do with fantasy baseball? Well, more doubles, more home runs, more runs. That's roto. That's roto baseball right there.
That's roto baseball. Yeah.
That's rotisserie. Except for the doubles,
Right.
that's more of a points league thing. But you get the point.
I
Um,
absolutely do.
and then the other thing I wanted to mention really quick, as we did talk about how both of us we're carving a little niche in the sports media realm, especially from a baseball perspective. And remember, there has been a lot of guys who have been a part of journalism, whether it be from fantasy baseball or real baseball, definitely from the analytics aspect or sabermetrics aspect of baseball. We saw it with who's the dude from Boston, the old guy. The
Gammons.
no, the other guy, Bill James. Sorry, Bill
Bill
James.
James. Yeah. Okay.
We saw it with Bill James. He got a job with the Boston Red Sox, and he supposedly did something to help them win that first World Series. It started with him, as far as I'm concerned. If there's
Right.
other people, please let me know out there. If you guys know of other people besides Bill James in the early 2000s who got jobs from writing baseball to getting a real baseball job. But then it just started being more. I mean, we got, I think the guy's name is Kevin Goldstein. He used to write for
Right.
Baseball Prospectus. He ended up with the Houston
Perspective.
Astros as a player development guy.
Right.
Our own very own Jason McLeod, that's the guy's name from the Cubs, I believe. He ended up doing minor league stuff for us for the Cubs. Um, the guy from Fangraphs, actually, I have several guys from Fangraphs, and their names are escaping me, but one of them works for the San Diego Padres. The other dude works for the Tampa Bay Rays. And then today, I don't know how much you follow basketball, there, Melvin. Today, the biggest Woj bomb got dropped on us
Oh,
when Adrian Wojnarowski,
Wojnarowski. Yeah, he
pencil
retired.
neck sports writer that he is now the general manager. His title is general manager of his, I guess it's his alma mater at St. Bonaventure's, the college basketball team. Like, bro, it's not only a real thing to a fantasy thing, but it's also the pen is is sometimes mightier than the sword, and
Right.
these scribes are now running actual, or at least contributing to the roster construction of real high
Real
level
sports
sports
team.
teams. I mean, how do you feel about that? It used to be, oh no, you want a real player to be running all that. Now it's they got lawyers, they got business people, and now they got sports writers in the front offices. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, just like whenever you ask me, let me put it to you this way. I don't think every player is made the same way. Like, the way you, for example, whenever we have these Hall of Fame shows, and we're obviously not gonna get into that right now, into who's Hall of Famer and who isn't. You have so many ways of evaluating a Hall of Famer because a Hall of Famer doesn't look a certain way.
Mhm.
Baseball knowledge obviously can come in a lot of different shapes. And now that we have all this exposure, all this opportunity, you realize that a lot of people who are very talented just never got a chance.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So now that there's where there's a need, there's alternate ways of doing things. When I used to teach, I became a teacher through an alternate path to teaching. I didn't go through the 4 years of college and then I did my student teaching, and then I took I did an alternate way of teaching. And the point is that more and more professions are doing that these days.
Right.
More, if you know anybody on HR, it's a lot less about fitting a mold. A lot of professions, and it's seeping into sports now, are giving chances to those alternate routes, because who knows, maybe you can strike gold in there. So that's I'm all for it. I'm all for progress, obviously. Do you want a person that's never played Major League Baseball managing a baseball team? I don't think so, because there's a lot more. First of all, you need the respect of your players. Second of all, there's a lot more to managing a baseball game than the X's and O's that you would not know if you did not play Major League Baseball. There's a lot of rituals, there's a lot of when to have meetings, how to speak to your coaches, that stuff, like niche stuff like that you just are not going to know unless you did experience that, having played a Major League Baseball game. So I don't know if we're ever going to see a guy like Connie Mack, for instance. Obviously, that's a different day and age, managing a baseball team with zero playing experience at any level. Obviously, guys like Mike Schilt, who never played professionally, but they did play at a high level at college and all that. But I don't think you'll ever see, it depends on the job. I don't think you'll ever see a nerd like me, for instance, who was a total scrub in baseball, but knows everything about numbers and history, managing a baseball team. But, in other aspects, you're going to see more guys like me and seeping in to contribute to how baseball is operated.
Got a name for you here. Joe Madden actually never made it to the majors, but obviously World
Right,
Series
neither did
champion.
Tony. I don't think Tony La Russa. I think he only played like 2 or 3 games.
But
Bruce
yeah,
Bochy was very quote unquote accomplished as a catcher.
yeah,
But
that
there
sounds
are
about
a
right.
lot. Tommy Lasorda, he was not a good baseball player. He was a great baseball mind, but he was not a good baseball player. But they did play organized baseball at a high level,
Yeah.
so they know those little niches that you just cannot know unless you
Yeah.
spent significant time of your life in a clubhouse.
And I just want to make sure that you kind of elaborate on that, because they say major league. You did say major league, but obviously, you know, there's still professional baseball. The minors are
Professional
still.
baseball, yeah. A
Yeah.
guy who managed in Japan, that person could manage a team. But anybody who ever managed any time of professional baseball or any colleague, and Mike Schilt, he comes from the college baseball
Hmm.
ranks. That guy won a manager of the year already,
Yeah.
and he could win another one this year. I know that we're not talking about that right now, but that guy could do that. Could win this year. A guy who never played organized baseball at the professional level. He was more of a college player, college
Mm.
coach, and then made the jump into the major leagues. That guy is well respected. So
And just to put some respect on Connie Mack's name, according to Wikipedia, because I could have sworn that he did play. Beginning in 1886, Connie Mack played 10 seasons in the old National League
well, he
and
did
one in the
play,
Players
but
League.
I meant like, a guy in a suit, like
Yeah, I know. I just want to make sure that
managing a
we
team,
give Connie
with a
Mack his due
fedora. Like,
respect. I
but
mean,
he just never had that, and he was much older too. When I imagined him that, so I
yeah.
was going more for the look of a guy in a suit managing a team, kind of, But he did, he was a professional player.
Yeah,
Yes, the
10
old
seasons.
days.
Hit Major League Baseball says 245 with a 5 home runs and 265 runs batted in. He has managed 7,755
It's never
games.
getting touched.
Holy moly.
That's
Uh,
never getting touched, though.
but guess what? He has a losing record. He has a 486 winning percentage, but it's okay. He owned the
So did
team.
Jim Leland. A lot of people don't know that. Jim
Yeah.
Leland has a losing managing record.
But I bet you 9 out of 10 modern baseball fans would, in a heartbeat, love to have Jim Leland in his prime managing
Absolutely,
their current
smoking.
team
Yes,
easily.
I like
In the smoking.
smoking in the dugout. Hey, you know what? Get out there.
I run the goddamn team, not you. It's my goddamn
Right.
decision. Get the hell out of my office.
You
Yeah,
know.
these old baseball timers and everything. So, anyway, oh, he was a catcher. Connie Mack was. I did not know that. It makes sense, right? They always say that the catchers make the best
Makes sense. They
managers.
always say the best, in my opinion, that you backup catchers, those people make really good managers. Like, they make really, really good managers because they're all about, they're very cerebral, Guys like David Ross, I think he was an okay manager. He wasn't that bad. He did what he could, what he was given.
I
So
agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he did what he could, what he was given. So, but he's a good baseball mind. He was a backup catcher. Guys like that are really good, are very cerebral, very they have a they have an outsiders looking in
Right.
perspective to baseball, but they're also on the inside. So
I'll give you one more.
I hope he gets another chance to manage
I
because
agree. Yeah.
he was not a bad manager at all.
I'll give you one more, and then we move on. Tony La Russa, you mentioned him. Major league career batting average, according to Wikipedia, $1.99, 35 total hits, 7 runs batted in, but his winning percentage, 536. Last major
You need that
league,
experience, yeah.
the last Major League Baseball appearance for him. Do you want to take a guess? Was it 1973? What team was he playing for? Do you know?
La Russa, was it the White Sox?
No, the Cubs.
The
Close.
Cubs.
Same town.
The Cubs, yes.
Yeah. La Russa, not a catcher, though. He's listed as an infielder according to
Infielder.
Wikipedia, but I'll be honest, I don't know much about La Russa's playing career. I do know that he gets credit.
And he's a lawyer.
I believe you're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
he
is an
actually.
attorney. That I can take that to the bank. Tony La
Yeah,
Russa
I
is an
remember
attorney.
that. And an
Yeah.
animal lover, too. He had a lot of dogs. I remember that as well.
Love it
But
too.
he
He loves a lot of booze too.
Ooh, yeah, we don't talk about that anymore. Well, leave the guy, let the guy be. He did his time. No, no.
Hey man,
Um,
as long as you're not driving, you're cool.
no, interesting thing about La Russa, as much as he got this, with the White Sox, this new look. Oh, he's an old school manager. He's this old school manager. But back when he was managing the White Sox and especially the Oakland Athletics, he was the guy who was breaking conventional wisdom, the nerd. Why can you let these pitchers go 9 innings? Why do you need to bring in Rick Honeycutt in the 7th? And why does what's his face Dennis Eckersley have to pitch 2 innings? Or why is he out there all the time? Why can you let these?
He was called the master of the bullpen.
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
called. That's what I remember that being a nickname for him. That nobody could manage a bullpen like Tony La Russa. And then it was so innovative. They went through 3 straight pennants, and they went to another LCS and everything. And then Tony La Russa became the old school manager. Who
yeah. It's
rah,
funny how
rah,
that
rah,
works.
rah,
Funny how that works. I know that you got to be a professional, damn it. That's why I love Andrew Vaughn. But no,
It's a
back in the
circle of
day,
life, man.
back in the day, he was that guy. He was the statistic guy. He was the play by percentages guy. I got to bring in Rick Honeycutt. I got to bring in these bullpen guys, and his bullpens were always loaded. And then everybody just started copying him, including the underdog Cincinnati Reds, who came in with the Nasty Boys, Rob Dibble, Norm Charlton, and Randy Myers.
Made it into a 6-inning game real quick.
Oh, hell yeah. And the rest is history.
Right.
So when I was practicing for this show, Melvin, I did bring up in my soliloquies the 2014, is it the 2015, 2014, 2015 Kansas City Royals. But no, we brought you here to, first of all, congratulate you on winning the Total Bases Podcast Champions League over at ESPN.
I'm putting on my crown.
Yeah. And, I mean, you could get yourself one of these. Ah, crap.
Canelo Alvarez crown,
You get yourself one of these.
Love that one.
Yeah, and yeah, it's the background is in the way. But let me see.
I saw it. It was awesome.
But I didn't see it, Melvin. I didn't see it. That's the damn problem. Let me see. I have to turn off the. How do I do that? Turn off the background.
The background, yeah.
Yeah, I got to turn that off. I like my background, but I don't like the fact that it gets in the way. Let me see. What does that look like? Oh, okay.
That looks great. Yeah, you can see it.
There's other trophies back there too. Yeah, I splurge on myself. I deserve it, but here's a little tiny trophy.
There you go.
What year is that? I can't. 2023. But I didn't just win one champion. See, you thought it was just going to be about yourself. No, when you're talking about this league, got to talk about the curator of this league, me, the
Heck yeah,
commissioner,
man. Hey,
who has won
hey.
back-to-back
To
championships. The
be the
first,
man, I had to beat the man.
damn right, you learned the hard way. You learned the hard way. But no, I gotta say, congratulations,
Somebody
bud.
had to end the dynasty, man.
Yeah, well, I had a feeling it was gonna be you. I didn't want it to be you, but I guess I guess you would be the most qualified at this point. Uh, but guess what? I didn't win the championship this year, but I'm still the dad joke champion,
Oh
uh,
man.
according to my wife. But regardless, no, congratulations one more time. This has been easily your most consistent team in the 3 seasons you've been a part of it. I guess the question
Absolutely,
is,
yeah. I did not have to do a lot of, up and down, back and forth.
yeah, I think I led the league in waiver or ad drops, which I'm not surprised because it's either you or me leading in that category every
Oh
season.
yes.
But man, the injuries, I don't, and I'm not here to make excuses. I'm just letting you know how frustrating
Oh no,
it
definitely.
was this year for me.
And
And
there was so much up and down. Like, uh, I already talked about Corbin Burns having to sit him down for a little bit. I had to
Corbin
sit
Carroll,
Luis
Corbin
Hill
Carroll,
down for a little bit.
talking about Corbin Carroll, you said,
I'm sorry, Corbin Carroll. Yeah,
yeah,
Corbin Carroll. I had to sit him down for a little bit. I had to sit Luis Hill down for a little bit till he got his act together. I had to sit Ryan Pepio for a little bit. I had to sit Colin Rea for a little bit. So there were a lot of guys that were pitching some big innings for me that they were coming off because they went through a lot. I went through a lot of rough stretches with some of these guys, and I had to do a lot of pairing up and be like, what the heck is going on? I'm glad that I found one dude that I wanted to spotlight. Spencer Horowitz. I when I was without a first baseman because
mm,
then Michael Bush was another dude that just flat out went cold for 3 weeks. And I was looking for a guy that could play all positions. And man, Horowitz, he came through, man. He had a 360 on base, man. Like it's like in his last like 300 ABs, he had 300 ABs for the year. So it wasn't a whole full year, but man, that guy was giving some serious contributions there with a 367 on base, 278 average. So
yeah,
and
he didn't do much in the championship game in terms of counting stats, but where it mattered most, the 429 on base percentage. I mean, I wish I had more guys
you see what I'm saying? Like,
getting
he's
400.
he and
That
man,
would
but if I wanted to pick I mean, it was my most consistent dude was Henderson, Gunnar Henderson,
oh yeah, I
especially
saw
those
that. Yeah.
first, especially that first, I would say 55-60% of the season. That guy was headed for a 10 WAR season. Then he kind of cooled off a little bit. I mean, cooled off, quote
But
unquote. He's still, top
so
three, top four. He's probably gonna finish like fourth or fifth in MVP votes.
I gotta ask
But
though, man, what do you think was the biggest difference between this year and the last 2 seasons? I mean, you've always been you know, competitive, but it's always like, well, it's becoming an inside joke with a few of us. Like, eventually, his team's gonna go through a June and July soon, and then we're never gonna
yeah,
hear from him again. What do you think was the biggest difference between this year and the
the
last couple of
pitchers,
years?
the
It's that
pitchers.
easy, huh? It's that
It
simple.
was it was hey, when in doubt, find a pitcher.
Yeah,
Like
I know
you know what
that's
I'm saying? It's
yeah.
just I had a lot of guys that you could just count on.
Hmm.
For example, Dakota Hudson. Then when Josh Hader was another guy that I had to sit down for a little bit
Yep,
because he was going through some spots there at the beginning of the season. I even I know this is not about the Mardi Gras league, but I even traded him in the Mardi Gras
I saw.
league
Yep,
because
yep, you did.
he was not well that and I had Class A in that league, so it made it really easy to trade Hader in that league because I had Class A. But Hader was another guy that I had to sit down, but there was always some players that I could rely on to give me some consistency when somebody went down. So guys like Eric Fetty, guys like Mackay Parker, those guys that I was able to sit down for the championship game. But when some of my guys were struggling, those guys pitched me like Eric Fetty. He got me a couple of really good starts there when everybody else was not. He got me some really good quality starts. So I was able to find some pitchers that I could, let's say, if a pitcher was having a really bad week, I could find a pitcher. One of my pitchers wasn't, and I was able to kind of like move him around. Like this guy Mitchell Parker, not Mackay
Mitchell
Parker,
Parker, yeah, from the
Mitchell
Washington
Parker.
Nationals. Yep,
Yeah, Mitchell Parker. That guy, I know he kind of finished the year a little suspect, but he had a stretch there for about 5 or 6 weeks
he did.
that
Yep.
he was really good. So while Hader was in the was in the struggle, I was able to have a guy like that and a guy like Eric Fetty to fill in. So I was the difference between this year and the years past was that in years past when guys went down, I couldn't find people to pick up the slack. This year I could.
Mm.
I could find some players that nobody was looking at that I could swoop them up and be like, okay, you've had a couple of bad weeks with Hill. Let me sit you down and give Mitchell Parker a chance. And I found Nick Martinez. Nobody wanted him, and he was really good. He gave me like 6 or 7 quality starts in a row at one point. So it was
Yeah.
like, guy when everybody was struggling, I could always find some players that were not, and I was able to kind of like even up the fight there. And in the categories league, that's a lot easier to do.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, I guess the other follow-up question to that is, as I'm looking at your pitching categories here, and I my pitching was the only thing that was keeping, and it makes sense because I put a lot of emphasis. Yeah, you said it yourself. When in doubt, draft a pitcher, go with a
Find a
pitcher,
pitcher.
and that's you. You obviously were listening to the podcast that one time.
Right, right.
It worked for
This
you,
very
but
podcast we're in right now.
but it ended up biting me in the ass. That's what happened. Like, I look at my pitching staff that I brought into the championship game, and I had a hard time figuring out who the hell did I draft this year, and and I realized, man, I put so much emphasis on starting pitching, and ain't this a B that the guys I was hoping to count on for the entirety of the year are no longer there. Glass now got hurt. Castillo got hurt.
Last now, yeah.
Jesus Luzardo got hurt. Who else did I draft? Let me see here. Let's see. Well, Terry Skubal. Yeah, he's the goods.
That
Should have
was
gotten
cool,
him.
yeah.
I should have gotten him in more leagues. Tristan McKenzie's gone. I don't even know why I drafted him.
Yeah, what happened to him? I
I
remember
no
I
no
liked him. I remember. I used to have him.
no freaking clue. I don't know. Too skinny. I don't know. But yeah, all those guys were gone, and I had to
Oh,
depend on waiver wire guys, which I I I'm not. I like the guys I picked up. I think they're legit players for next year. The Spencer Arrigettis, the Spencer Schwallenbachs. That might be my new rule. When in doubt, just draft a guy named Spencer for your pitchers.
Spencer, yeah,
Spencer.
Spencer
Devin
Strider.
Williams was just sitting there off waivers. Like, I can't believe Devin Williams was on waivers. All right, nobody wants him. I'll take him.
Right.
Hunter Brown had a bounce back second half. Bowden
Was
Francis
it
might
was it
be.
you that was putting a lot of stock on Paul Sewell too? And he,
Oh yeah, I was gonna get to that. I was gonna get to that,
yeah.
but I gotta trust me. I'm bearing it all. I'm not hiding, bro. I said a lot of things that
Oh,
ended up biting me right in the butt this year. But you mentioned one of them was when in doubt, getting starting pitcher. Well, it worked for you. It didn't work for me. But there's a lot of guys that I patchwork, and I'm not making excuses, but I'm just trying to figure out. That's one of the things I went wrong was I put so much emphasis on starting pitching that it ended up biting me in the butt. I mean, Luis Castillo in the fourth round, no, third round, sorry. Luis Castillo in the third round, Tyler Glasnow in the fourth round, Jesus Luzardo in the seventh round, Paul Sewell in the ninth, Andres Munoz in the 10th. And I just and I ended up getting a crappy outfield, not enough hitting, not enough offense. Uh, and that's what happened to me. But the thing I wanted to ask you, oh, right. So even though I put all this emphasis on pitching, I am my pitching staff did carry me the entirety of the year, whether they were drafted players or guys I picked up off waivers. So I did. That was the one thing that was holding this team together because there at one point I was on the outside looking in to make the playoffs,
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
and I actually went on a 3-game losing streak. And I think I got my ass whipped by your team in our second leg of our home and home. No, not home and home. Sorry. Well, we face each other twice a year, right? So I
Right.
beat you in the first game, but you beat me in the second game very
Right.
handedly. And I'm on the top of the leaderboards and the majority of the pitching staff stats, but right behind me is you. Your offense is already better than me. I didn't realize that you had accumulated so many statistics to be right on my heels in all these pitching categories. So that helped a lot this year for you. But I have to ask you, what about in terms of your player evaluation methods, how to draft and who to pick up off waivers. Did that change anything? Did you have to tweak anything, or did you just do the same thing you've been doing this whole time?
Well, I a lot of times, and that's what I do with with fantasy. When you see a player that has a hot hand, you pick him up.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, for example, when Miranda went on that tear in the beginning of the year, I picked him up, and you know what? He still, I mean, obviously he did not keep up. He did not keep up that pace, but 289, 327 on base is not bad. I mean, 289 batting average in this league, it's gonna give you some categories.
Yeah.
So what I like to see how the player's doing. Obviously, how you can't just play it on the computer. You got to watch and see. Hey, a guy, for example, like Brandon Nimmo.
Yeah.
A guy like Mark Kanya. Those guys that I picked up, like I said earlier, when Stephen Kwan went quote unquote cold for a little bit, then those guys could obviously cold us, and that guy can still hit no matter what. But it surprised me that he finished the year in the 290s because he was headed for 350. But in this league, that's gonna take you places.
Yeah.
But when you have guys that are hitting, if a guy, I mean, and sometimes I would live and die with Christopher Morel in some leagues because he was the same thing that would happen to me with Alfonso Soriano back in the day. But at least he could steal back in 06 and 07. And I would die with that guy with Christopher Morel because some days he could give you 4 home runs in a week, but then 3 weeks he gives 0. It's like, my goodness gracious. So you got to be careful with that strategy. But then again, you got to kind of like watch and see if a player is struggling. You cannot be and a lot of times you think twice about sitting a huge player, like for example Corbin Carroll. I think that was my first pick. I think that's the first guy I picked was Corbin Carroll.
He was.
And a lot of people be like, I don't want to sit that guy down. I'm not producing. I got to sit him down.
I did that with Julio Rodriguez.
A lot of people wait until it's too late for guys like that to wake up. And sometimes you got to think, well, maybe he is having a sophomore slump and he's not going to wake up and I have to sit him down. And then when he starts waking up, you put him back in.
Exactly. So, I did the same thing. I think it was last year when I had Julio Rodriguez as my first round pick. He was just putrid, man. He was just awful.
This year, yeah, he was
no, I'm talking about last year, even last year too.
Yeah.
And I did the difficult decision. I go, I got to bench this guy until he figures things out. And people thought I was crazy. Like, bro, that's a little bit of a rash decision. Have you seen his numbers? Like, he's not doing anything at all.
You give them, you wait, and it's a lot easier to do with a guy that has a pedigree. When I used to draft, a lot of times you would have given me a lot of grief but I used to draft Mark Teixeira a lot.
Mark Teixeira, yeah.
Teixeira, and that guy has some awful Aprils. Like I'm talking about $155, 2 home run Aprils. I remember like it was today. But as time passed, you realize that's just who he is. And then the calendar turns to May, and bam, 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 here he comes again.
He heats up with the weather, right?
Players that you go bat for. You got to know. But it's really hard for a guy to do with a guy like Corbin Carroll, a guy like Julio Rodriguez. Don't have that pedigree, don't have that backstory.
Right.
So it's really rough to be like, oh, is he gonna wake up? Because then all of a sudden I sit him down, and he gives me 30 points in a points league in a week, and then you put him back in.
Right.
So that's why you can switch him every time.
Yeah.
But you just can't be afraid to realize, hey man, this guy was my first pick. I gotta send him down.
Yeah, he's hurting.
That doesn't mean your whole season's going to shreds. It just means that there's this. So
yeah, he's hurting you more than helping you at this point. He's not helping you win.
He's hurting more.
Yeah, and that's what happened with me and J-Rod. And I 2 or 3 weeks, I just benched them, and I'll manage without you. And suddenly I started winning games again with my first round pick being my worst player too. That's what you do. You got to just bite the bullet and
you got to bite the bullet, and you can't be like, oh man, because it's not. I mean, if they're hurting you, you got to set them down. And I think me sitting down Corbin Carroll, I was trouble having finding a center field. That's how I ended up with Brandon Nimmo. And for a while there, Nimmo was carrying center field for my team.
Oh yeah, Nimmo was on a tear.
While Corbin Carroll was down.
Nimmo was on a tear this summer. Like I couldn't believe it suddenly, because the knock on Carroll, Nimmo is where are the counting stats at? Like, why isn't this guy? Yeah, because he has the tools and the knowledge. Like, this guy is very skillful at what he does, and he posts high batting average and high on base percentage at times.
Mm-hmm.
But where's the rest of it? Why isn't it translating? And that's the question I used to ask Sean as the Mets fan all the time. Why doesn't Nimmo produce more? And I think this year he actually produced more for like I've never seen
21 and
before.
87.
What was
Yeah,
that? I'm sorry. What was that?
21 home runs, 84 RBI.
Yeah,
So
I don't think I've ever seen that from him
no,
in all my
Nemo,
years.
yeah, he figured it out.
Matter of fact,
And 13 stolen bases, so that's not too shabby when it comes to and right now he's in the middle of a 6 or 7 game hitting streak. So
let's see here. Brandon Nimmo. I still have the ATC projections on the other screen from Ariel Cohen. He was projected to get to 19 home runs, 65 RBI, four
yeah, he
stolen
went over
bases.
that.
I'm sorry, what?
He went way over that. Yeah,
Yeah, I know these projections are more conservative by nature,
of
but
course.
yeah, I would agree that he did go way over any of his projections. How many stolen bases does he have?
13.
Four was his projection.
13. Yeah, like hey, and that's points right there. In a categories league, that's that you just
What's it?
as little as these kids are stealing, then you got a kid in there that can steal all these bases. Yeah, that's gonna take that could be the fighting factor because sometimes that category of stolen bases is a little hard to come by.
Oh yeah, even with the rules, sometimes it's yeah. The problem is, well, I don't want to get into a rant about stolen bases because yeah, I'll go off a tangent there. But yeah, the problem is a lot of the guys who steal a lot of bases, they're one-dimensional players. If you can get a guy like Brandon Nimmo who does a little bit of everything for you, oh, it's magic. It's just the right stuff. Some people are hearing 13 stolen bases, not a lot of stolen bases. It adds up, man. It adds up. Let me ask you a question. What's his batting average right now?
Nemo is at 229.
Oh, same old Nimmo. He was projected at 267, but do you have his on base percentages then? That's his
Right.
bread and
On
butter.
base is at 338.
Okay, that's pretty respectable. But yeah, he usually posts a very high on base percentage.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
he's high on base. That's way above league average. So
yeah, especially in this league, in modern times right now, that it's a weird, wacky baseball that we're watching on TV, and a lot of people are complaining, including guys like Goose Gossage, which, man, we got to stop. I know that you were on board with what he said. I know what's his face, Rodriguez put that up in our baseball life league, but man, all I heard was I don't watch the game. But let me tell you what's wrong with this game. Like, get the hell out of here, you
well, I
little.
mean, he did say that, but I mean, what he did say was about the whole teach him how to pitch. That whole and that's I think that I personally think that's legit because you know they are better athletes these days. They have better programs. They have better technology, and they
But
keep getting hurt more. That's
respectfully, Melvin, you know
something
what they don't
there.
have? You know what they don't have? What they had back in Goose Gossage's time? They don't have
Well,
any PEDs, man. You took the PEDs away from them, and that listen, look, what's the difference between this era and his era? Is the golden age of where when he played, and this modern era where you're right, better medical staff, better training regimens, better food, better amenities,
get better
better
athletes
everything.
by nature.
But the better athletes by nature, you're right. I mean, that's just human evolution. We see the Olympics; everybody's running faster, jumping higher. Records are being broken and being shattered, actually.
Except for Flojo, but we won't talk about that.
But the one difference from baseball players of yesterday and baseball players today, and that, well, why do they need more time off? Why do they need more breaks? Why can't they play 162? Why can't they play more games consecutively? Why can't they go 8 innings? Why can't they do? There's no PEDs, man.
There's no juice, man.
You took away their candy, man, and you want them to perform like superhumans still? That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
You
you
want a
cannot.
clean
Yeah,
game. This is what it
I
looks
think that's an
like.
indictment of the whole thing. You're right.
And it
So
makes me, and that really makes me wonder, like, how effective were these amphetamines and these injections that they were using throughout the game, even the cocaine? How effective was it for these guys to just keep going, for pitchers to just throw like they had a rubber arm, like there's nothing wrong with them structurally ever? Throwing 150 innings pitch at 150 pitches per game, I should say. Uh, you're never gonna see, bro. They get to like 90 pitches. They're already counting down the clock as to when they can pull them out
oh
of the
yeah,
game.
definitely.
Otherwise, if you don't pull him out, then the manager looks like an idiot for not pulling him out sooner. Like, what were you thinking? They say.
Right.
Anyway,
What are you thinking? You're gonna cost this man his career.
Look at Mark Pryor. Look at Kerry Wood. Don't do that to Paul Skeens, but let him go for a no hitter, even though he's already at 120 pitches in the 6th inning. Like nobody's
Right.
happy. Anyway, I digress. You'll be happy to know that don't feel too bad about Stephen Kwan. 13th in batting average.
Right.
Only 7 hitters as of right now, according to Fangraphs. So I don't know when this was updated, but 7 hitters are above 300 this year.
Wow.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those players are over 30 home runs. Vladimir Guerrero's at 28. So 6 out of 7 of the 300 hitters are going to be over 30 home runs soon. Can you name the one player who's over 300 who does not even have 10 home runs?
Luis Arraez.
That's right.
The Mr. Modern day Tony Gwynn, I've been calling him. They've
Yeah.
been calling him that.
Yeah, by default, I guess.
I mean, I guess, I guess that would be the equivalent to a guy like Tony Gwynn, but
Well,
I
pick
don't
a
like I don't
pick a
like to make,
year.
you know,
Pick a year from Tony Gwynn's peak. Pick any year from Tony Gwynn's peak.
87.
87. Well, why 87? Why is that so
I
special?
don't know. That comes to mind. I think that was
Okay.
a killer year for him.
You think that was one of the years where he stole 50 stolen bases?
No, I think that was a good year for Tony Gwynn. I think 87. I think
Yes.
I heard a lot of people say Tony Gwynn's one of his good years was 87.
Actually, lucky guess on my part, 56 stolen bases from Tony Gwynn that year.
Well, and 370 batting average. Yeah. Wow. Look at this. I'm so good. Look at this, man. Look at Tony Gwynn's 87. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
119 runs scored. He must have been batting leadoff, and 56 stolen bases. Walked a lot more than he struck out. Not much of power for obvious reasons. Still was able to slug 511.
Yes.
I don't think.
958 OPS,
Yeah, yeah,
158 OPS plus. And now you see why I scoff at the comparison between Arraez and Gwynn,
yeah.
right?
He's not a Luis Arraez. I think, but
Okay.
I am a firm believer that if Luis Arraez is 3rd in batting average this year, he would have been 3rd in batting average in 1987 just because of ballpark factors, league factors, pitching, all those
Fair enough.
factors. He's Paul Molitor. I kind of like that comparison. Not the same pop, not the same power, but we're in a weird era of
That dude was
baseball.
yeah, Paul Molitor was kind of a doubles guy too.
Alan
So.
Trammell, if you're not happy with Paul
Alan
Molitor,
Trammell, yeah,
yeah,
those are Hall of Famers. I mean, there's those are not names to sneeze at.
yeah. I'm just trying to
But
match.
certainly not Tony Gwynn.
Well,
When I see the whole Tony Gwynn comparison to Luis Arraez, I kind of like, and it's not fair to Arraez, obviously,
no,
but
it's
I kind of
not.
like, no, not even
But
close.
maybe the home run numbers is what people are. As Tony only hit
Right,
7,
the whole high
4
high batting at that he's made with the same fabric, high batting average,
contact
quote
hitter. Yeah.
quote, no power, although
Yeah.
but Tony Gwynn's hit 7 home runs that year. So, and with a 370 batting average. So that's where the comparison comes in. But he also had a 958 OPS. So
Yeah. Arraez doesn't even have a 400 slugging percentage.
That's 36 doubles and 13 triples. That's a heck of a season. That's
Yeah.
yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
May have been his best season.
That's why I laugh when people say, "Oh, Tony Gwynn was just a slap happy hitter." Like, have you seen some of these gaudy numbers he put up in San Diego? It's like,
yeah.
like you can't even say, "Well, that's an analytics issue." The analytics don't like Tony Gwynn. No, a 154 WRC plus, he's hitting 54% better than the average hitter.
Yes.
And that puts
that is as late as 1997. He was a 156 OPS
come on.
plus.
Get out of here. That's crazy. Yeah, I think Tony Gwynn is a pretty excellent freaking hitter. And
I mean, I am not one of those old school people, like, oh, sacrilege, but Tony Gwynn was one of the best hitters. I mean, my goodness, 220 hits at the age of 37. That's and not a suspicion, not even once, because it's not like he was hitting 60 home runs.
Oh, you know what though? He was on that nicotine. Nicotine's a stimulant.
That must have been,
Yeah, rest in peace.
Something, but
rest in peace to the wonderful Tony Gwynn, one of the most jovial characters in Major League Baseball, of infectious laugh, and like you said, just one of the greatest hitters. No matter if you want to use traditional numbers, I always say this about Tony Gwynn, whether you want to use traditional numbers or advanced analytics, it just says that he's a great hitter, regardless of what statistic you want to use.
Mean,
stop playing with me.
You need some kind of talent to win 3 straight batting titles. He won 3 straight and then 4 straight. So it's like, come on.
Yeah, in an era where everybody was juicing up, man. Like everybody was muscular, and then there's round mound Tony Gwynn up to the plate.
Yeah.
in the 90s at least. But yeah, he was a fast guy in the 80s, like 56 stolen bases. It was
56 stolen bases. Yeah,
yeah.
that's and a pretty good average too. A pretty good caught percentage because he only got caught 12 times.
Let's
So
see here. 33 stolen bases in 84. That was the year that they made it to the World Series.
yeah,
30,
37 and 86,
56 and
40 and
87.
90.
Oh my God, yeah.
So
And
certainly not Luis Arraez. So
89. Oh, actually 89 was in is when he stole 40 stolen bases. And I think
okay.
89 was when they had the All-Star game in San Diego too, I believe, if memory serves me correct. Because I think 90 was it
Well,
Wrigley
90
maybe?
was at Wrigley. I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
90,
that
90 was at Wrigley.
so yeah, the guy had even in 95 he stole 17 stolen bases.
95 when
That's
he was
crazy.
like, he was much older, but then again, he hit 368. Now, 368 at age 35, come on, man. Like, I mean, it took all that talent. And
Yeah.
so yes, Luis Arias, he's, good, good contact hitter, great hitter, but I don't see the comparison at all. And
Yeah.
if I were a Padres fan, I wouldn't find it funny at all. So
Yeah, I think like I said, Paul Molitor seems to be a better fit. Yeah, although, yeah, it's hard to compare eras, right? But and especially when you're trying to do an apples to apples comparison, the third place in batting average would mean third place is batting average in 87, but it's the best what we got. That's it's still a top three batting average hitter,
oh yeah,
right?
definitely. That
It's
definitely and
it's
for fantasy purposes, you'll take that.
yeah,
I
and
don't
it's
think there's a fantasy league that's gonna scoff on Luis Arias because he's a slap hitter, quote unquote. No, you're gonna get him because he gives you the hits.
yeah, you get
So,
cumulative stat and all that. Now, if
and
you want
hits is a
to
category. Single is a category. So
Now, if you want to just go with the WRC plus, I think Luis Arraez is at 112. Then you get to lesser known players like Mitch. Oh, I remember Mitch Webster. Yeah,
Mitch Webster, yeah.
at
And
his baseball card, and Greg Walker of the White Sox. I guess Mitch Webster would be, but then Mitch Webster scored 33 stolen bases. Oh my God, that's
wow.
crazy, Mitch Webster. I never
I always
thought of
thought
him
of
like
him as a
that.
bench guy.
Oh,
Interesting.
I got it. I got the perfect comparison now. Although this guy stole a lot more bases than Luis Arraez does. Arraez has a history of leg injuries, so maybe he's never gonna have a good comparison. But Ryan Sandberg with a 110 WRC plus, 16 home runs, 21 stolen bases, hit 294 that year.
And what year was that?
87.
87? Okay.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh
but
yeah.
he got a lot of value for that glove though, too. So, and
Uh
for that was a power hitting second baseman back then, by the way. 20 home runs at second base. That was a lot of power from second base back then.
uh let's see here. No, 16 home runs, 21 stolen bases.
Oh, 16
you know who else hit 16 home runs that year at second base?
at second base.
Yeah. Lou Whitaker, one of the
Lou
most
Whitaker. I think he should be a Hall of Famer. Obviously, that's not
easily.
that show, but he's definitely a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, easily, but they're not gonna put him in because like no, that's enough. We already we don't want to make these analytic people too happy. But
Right.
you guys already put Alan Trammell because of analytics. Anyway,
And Goose Gossage,
and well, Kuz,
right? I'm gonna die on that hill
we
because
talked
I
about
have
this. I remember
evidence
now. We
that
did talk about
there
this.
is
Yeah.
evidence that the traditional writers flunked Goose Gossage 8 or 9 times, and it wasn't until the analytics writers put him in.
Yeah.
So
And
to me,
analytics,
that's a huge irony that I'm just gonna bring up every single time that
yeah.
we have a chance that Goose Gossage's name comes up.
And I remember now we did talk about it the last time you were here, but and it wasn't just him; it was Lee Smith. It opened the doors for Lee Smith. I think Bruce Sutter also eventually made it to the Hall of Fame.
Right. Oh, then
Um,
there were all the unless you were on Eckersley and on Eckersley's level or Raleigh Fingers level, guys that won MVPs, you weren't getting in. Those guys
yeah,
won MVPs. Other than that, but unless you won an MVP as a reliever, which is something somehow no that's ever going to happen again. But unless you won MVPs as a reliever, you weren't getting in. Now all of a sudden you start going in because of all the analytics writers that you diss all the time. So
well, getting back to our fantasy matchup, you beat me 19 categories to 4. We're a 12 by 12 league, 12 categories on the hitting side of things, 12 on the pitching side of things. I think the turning point for me that I knew that I had lost was when Cody Bradford, who was dependable for at least a good month, and maybe 2 or 3 weeks for me on my team. I lost track, but yeah, he got hammered. I don't
Mm.
know against who though. He only pitched 3 and 2/3 innings in our matchup. And of course, today or yesterday, he goes 7 innings, 6 strikeouts, 5 hits. Where was this last week?
Where was that? Yeah, like
What
Michael
the
Bush.
hell?
Like Michael Bush when I sat him down for the championship game
Oh, here
because
we go.
he was nowhere to be found for 3 or 4 weeks. I give the start on the championship game to someone else. I think it was Jose Miranda. And
Okay.
then Michael Bush goes on a tear against the Dodgers and the Rockies. I'm talking
Oh,
about he won Player of the Week.
oh, he had something to prove against the Dodgers, his old team,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and of course in Colorado,
Oh
even
yeah.
I could.
Oh yeah.
But
Just tee it up, baby.
that
Uh,
was just hilarious. That just part of the hilarity that is fantasy baseball. I set him down because he had 4 cold weeks after being my starter the whole time, and all of a sudden now I had to sit him down because and when I sit him down, boom, Player of the Week.
well, Cody Bradford, he must have gotten shelled by Corbin Carroll and company. He did face the Diamondbacks, 3 and 2/3 innings, 9 hits, 8 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, gave up 3 home runs. I believe we keep track of home runs per nine. I don't remember.
I
Oh, we
believe so.
don't. No, we don't, apparently. Either way, it was not a good outing for him. And that's when I knew that it was over. And then I had Ryan Nelson, who I guess he got hurt.
Oh my,
So
yes.
I didn't get the 40 innings
The
pitch.
40 innings, yeah.
So it doesn't matter. I would have lost anyway. I mean, Cody Bradford shitting the bed basically was my doom here, as I needed everybody to be on their A game, and it's hard for
Yeah, and
everybody to be.
that's the thing with the playoffs, man. That's why I'm
Yeah.
scared of. I know we're not talking about Mardi Gras today, but I got Blake Snell. I'm crossing my fingers 'cause I have a feeling he's getting rocked this week.
Who is he
So,
facing? Who's he facing?
I think he's facing a high leverage team. Uh, but I think he's facing I think the Dodgers or something like that. But um, I was really hesitant. Let me check who he was fighting because now you got me curious. But I was really hesitant because he's been known to sometimes have a really good outing and then he gets rocked.
Yeah.
So
Sunday, he
yeah,
faces the Royals.
so that's a good team. So he's gonna get a couple slaps in there. Like Sal and Bobby Witt are getting
Right.
probably a couple hits off of him on that. So especially
Yes.
since they're right-handed hitters and that but
So he's a two
that's
start. He's a two-start pitcher this week for you.
yes, he did really well last time on that other league.
Oh,
He
okay.
did
Here we
really
go.
well.
He faced
But
the Orioles on Tuesday.
so everybody
Six.
who faces the Orioles these days does well. So
That's ironic as hell because the Orioles are supposed to be this new juggernaut, and they're hitting that wall really bad. I mean, the Yankees, who, I mean, depending on who you read, Vince, they're in shambles, and they have an idiot manager, and they are now looking at World Series contenders, like they might win the AL pennant at this rate. Uh,
at this point, yeah, I don't see any other team but you never know because that and then the argument is going to be well the rest because you cannot just sit a team down for 4 days and one of these wild card teams is going to bounce them out
yeah,
either
man.
them. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna call it either the Yankees or the Guardians are getting bounced out by a wild card team. Watch.
Probably the Guardians. Probably the Guardians.
One of those teams is gonna get bounced by a wild card team.
Oh yeah, I think it's gonna be the Guardians. It's always the Guardians. I think I don't. Anyway, you know what? I'll hold off until a later time. But as of right now, it's definitely the Guardians if I have to pick one of those two teams. But
I
getting
know.
back to it here, yeah. So that's what happened. Like I said, I'm not making excuses, but once because it was pretty close, and then Cody Bradford has his game, and he implodes, and that's when I realized that it was over.
And
And then
then you couldn't get the
so I was supposed to get 2 starts from Spencer Arrighetti, and the Astros are doing this stupid ass 6-man rotation because of
rotation.
Justin Verlander again, and that's pissing me off. And then Ryan Nelson, I'm not even seeing him on this list, so he must have gotten hurt, so he didn't even get to play, and he was doing
Well, he was.
very well, and it's the damnedest thing. I remember telling me it's the darndest thing. He's pitching more inside, right in the strike zone. He's not being fancy about it. He's just big fastball, throwing it down the middle. I dare you to hit it, and no one can hit it. And then what was it? The shoulder, the elbow, whatever. It's always something with these
It's
pitchers.
always something when there's no
Soft.
juice, you know.
Nah, that's what I'm saying. Let them juice already.
Let them juice it up a little bit.
Golly. I mean,
At least the preventive measure of it,
let
you
me
know.
ask you this, man. If they find like that some of these injections, whatever, I don't know what the injections are. I don't know what the exact combination or chemical makeup we're talking about. But if there was a magical injection, I'm not even talking about plasma enrichment or PRP, whatever, just anything that will magically sew these ligaments together, especially on the joints, shoulder or elbow. Would you be mad if pitchers were just taking that? And
I
would
mean, no. I mean,
no,
like, what's the difference between that and insulin? I mean, I don't know, man. Look,
that's
it's
performance enhancing, isn't it? Like,
I mean, it's like this, man. Look, am I I'm right now I'm 42 years old. That means when all these players were in the thick of the steroid era, I was in my teens. So I got my heart broken by all these Reuters.
yeah,
Would I
same.
put my neck out on the line for any player being completely clean, 100% clean in 2024? I am too much of a cynic to do that. No, I am not gonna put. I've always been of the mind after the '90s that players are always gonna be a step ahead of testing, and
Mm.
it's what it is.
Look at the
Now,
Olympics. Yeah.
my question is with the whole so the first guy that got caught for steroids, I'm always gonna remember his name. It's gonna be Alexis Sanchez, and it's because in MVP 04, he was one of the best players, the who developed. When you put the season and when you put multiple seasons and you go 08, 09, Alexis Sanchez was always a guy that was projected to be really good. He was the first guy who got suspended on in the mid 2000s for this performance enhancing thing. Now, how much was that helping him really? So my point is, if it's something that fixes you, not something that gives you an advantage, why not? If it
Hmm.
just fixes you and makes you who you were supposed to be, had you not gotten hurt. I'm not saying if it's something that I inject into Mark Pryor and he becomes Hulk. I'm saying if there's something that we could do to fix Mark Pryor to where he didn't get hurt, and we got the real what we would have gotten, then that would be okay. That's where I draw the line. But am I naive to think that everybody's clean in MLB right now? No, I know
No,
there's some war
there's
player out there somewhere juicing the hell, and
probably some Dominican right now as we speak. It's
I
always the
mean,
Dominicans.
it's what it is. Whatever. I got my heart broken already by Sammy Sosa, by all those guys. I'm not gonna get it again by if I find out that, and this is not an accusation, but if I find out, oh, Aaron Judge or Otani or Gunnar Henderson or any of these guys are juiced up, and be like, you know what? So what? I've seen it before. We're just gonna have another argument for 25 years about it. So,
Yeah, I think Aaron
you
Judge is
know,
on something. Um, Meaning, like I'm ambivalent. I like a part of me believes that he's on something, and a part of me believes that he's clean. But you're right. I grew up in the same era you did. I'm 41 years old over here,
right. So
and it's made me cynical of anything. Like when the
just
people say that Aaron Judge is the cleanest player that ever hit 50 home runs, I cringe because how do we know that? Well, they're testing. Yeah, but
come on.
how
I've heard it
biased are
from.
these exams, though? I mean,
Come on. It's you cannot tell me that players have always been a step ahead of the exams.
yeah.
Olympians have always been a step ahead of the exam. So again, I have no reason to believe because at the end of the day, it's not like a guy that's 5'6" hitting all these home runs in a yard that's 450 feet to left field. It's a guy that's very huge. It's a very, very, very huge human being hitting home runs in a park that's not very large. So let's be real. It's
Uh,
about as real as it gets. Let's just put it that way.
that brings up another
But
argument about universal dimensions, which
that
apparently that's a
you
bad
know I'm died on
idea.
that hill. You'll never hear I don't know what the entertainment value is on the whole. You know what? That would have been a home run in 16 other parks. Well, you know what, buddy? Tonight it wasn't. So
Yeah,
how
a
about
bit.
we don't make the comment? But do you ever hear that in the NBA? Steph Curry that would have been a 3 in Boston, but that's not a 3 in Chicago. So
Like the novelty is pretty cool, like because we real in the real world that we live in, yeah, it is. Every ballpark has different dimensions, and it's a pretty cool novelty. But after a while, if you're talking about competition and fairness and sportsmanship, then
there's a way to keep
you
there's a
got to
way
talk
to
about
keep
it.
all the there's a way to keep all the all the features that people have fallen in love with.
Yeah, just don't put it in the
Or who knows?
in
Maybe when all these cathedrals start falling into the word, there's gonna come a day that you will not be able to play at Wrigley, and that you will not be
okay.
able to play at Fenway. There's gonna come that day, people.
Nah, bro,
So
this is professional sports, man. You don't kill the cash cow. I think you of all
maybe
people know that.
well, I mean, why did the Braves move to outside the county? So I mean, because they're
Well,
gonna make. So there's gonna
well,
come a day. I mean, you no longer give masses at these cathedrals over there in Italy, because now they're museums and all that. There's gonna come a day. I don't know if I'll ever live to see it, that baseball will not be played in these places, because it's what happens to
eventually
cathedrals, man.
maybe,
So
but like you said, we'll both be gone. But in the near, I mean, they've already
so
both.
maybe
eh,
that'll be the day that people start. Well, you know what? Now that those nostalgic ballparks are gone, maybe we can start building some ballparks that had the same dimensions. And
Yeah.
people are gonna start screaming from over there. But what about the ballpark?
You know
So
that was brought up in the chat. This comedian, somebody, oh, it was Tyler who posted this comedian posting. Did you know in baseball they all have different dimensions? Like one ballpark has a ginormous wall, like that's all the way over up here in Boston, and people think it's cool. No one questions it. It's a novelty. And then, but I'm a casual fan. I don't know about baseball, but why does this wall it has to be 50 feet tall and 200 feet in? Oh, and this is a team that's made the World Series 13 times. He's mentioned. I don't know how factual that is, but sounds right. It is an older
right.
franchise in the American League, so maybe they've made it that many times. I don't remember.
I think they have. It's pretty safe they have.
But we also know that they're losers. They haven't won since 19. They hadn't won since 19. Oh, what year was it?
18. I think it was
1918.
18 for
Yeah,
them.
again,
Oh
they
wait,
beat the
for us, yeah.
Cubs. They beat the Cubs that year.
Yeah, in
Uh,
1918.
the one
By a
player
guy, a
that's
pitcher named Babe Ruth.
oh well, my pitcher that I was gonna mention was for the Cubs. I think his name was Hippo Vaughn.
Hippo Vaughn, yeah.
So that name always stuck with me. We had a pitcher on the Cubs named Hippo Vaughn. Wow.
Hippo Vaughn, yeah.
And I was gonna just quickly talk about Xander Bogaerts. I drafted him in the Mardi Gras league. Like, again, we weren't gonna talk about Mardi Gras, but I drafted him as a bounce back candidate this year. Thinking like he had a kind of an off year last year. Yeah, he had 285, but there was something lacking with him. I don't know, just something lacking. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I know I'm not the only one who thought this, that maybe the move to San Diego wasn't a good idea. But suddenly, I know he was hurt this year. Well, I guess I shouldn't talk too much because he did hit 31 doubles, but in Boston, he was always a doubles machine,
Oh yes.
like
That a lot
consistently.
of his luck came from there.
Yeah, so I was that was more to prove the point that he goes to a more pitcher friendly ballpark where the dimensions are further away, and suddenly he can find the gaps. 31 doubles last year, 2023. That is the lowest that he's hit since 2014 when he was in his first full major league season.
And
He had
he's hitting that
28.
age too, isn't he? Like
I believe
he's 31.
so, 31, but yeah,
So
he's
he's
still
about to
young
start.
enough.
So but to start DHing a whole lot more, let's just say that.
He did steal 19 bases last year, so there's
Well, I
something
mean,
to that.
good athlete. Don't get me wrong. There's all star. Then
Yeah,
again, there's all stars and then there's superstars.
yeah,
So
yeah. Manny Machado, you can, and Fernando Tatis are the superstar players on that team, and
right,
Bogarts is there as a complimentary piece, a very expensive
a
complimentary
very
piece.
expensive second baseman. Yes.
But he can play shortstop too if he has to. But he's not going to be the
Oh,
best
yeah,
shortstop on the
Hajjal King
team.
feels everything,
Hassan
but
Kim
when he's
feels
there,
everything. Yeah, he just needs to hit better.
that guy feels everything when he's there.
Absolutely. Um, so to finish up, man, you mentioned what you did right, what you did wrong. And were there any like, man, I wish I hadn't. Did we talk about that already? Like, I wish I hadn't picked that player. I wish I wouldn't have. I thought this player was going to do better, but he didn't.
Well,
Anything?
that let's see. That I mean, I had to do a lot of mix and matching. I had to, and my two dudes that always carry me on every league, Rooker and Rooker and Santander did a lot. But I mean, Machado, he kind of had a, I mean, even though I mean, you see, okay, 29, 104, but
He got off to a really slow start.
He got off to a really horrible start. He wasn't walking a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to depend a lot on his slug. He K'd a lot. So because of him, I never had less Ks than my opponent very often. So I thought he was gonna do a whole lot better
Well,
than he was advertised.
he's been on fire since
But
since
ever
after
since
the
like
All-Star game.
July 17th or something, he turned it on.
Yeah.
So I mean, really not much to hate there. Carroll, for those I thought, for all his virtue, I thought he was gonna do a lot more than he ended up doing. Uh so he ended up, like I said earlier, he ended up missing a lot of time, and then he kind of like started coming back to where he was projected. But yeah, Machado got off to a horrible start, and it seemed like that first half was just trying to find his groove on everything, and then he found it. So, but yeah, we missed a lot of points in the beginning with Machado for sure.
Edwin Diaz, you drafted in the 6th round, and
Edwin,
he eventually lost his job.
yeah,
I don't know if
he,
he's still the
he
closer or not. What's the update on him nowadays?
he's not closing
Mm,
in New York. I think New York is going by bullpen by committee.
hmm
But if I'm in the playoff, I give it back to him because he can pitch under pressure. He's gonna make the pitches. He may a lot of times if they don't hit it to Frankie, it goes through. I've seen it happen. You know what I'm saying? So his best bet is just to pitch wherever I hope they hit it to Frankie. But a lot of times there's a lot of grounders that went through. So yeah, he lost his job in the beginning, and he just could never. I had to let him go because I needed. He was costing me a lot of uh ERA. He was costing me a lot of WHIP. So I had to let him go in the beginning. But hopefully he gets it back because he's a really good arm when he's on. Tell you that. Him and his brother both.
Roster Resource has him still closing, believe it or not.
Oh.
And I'm trying to figure out how frequent is he closing, but
Well, he may have gotten it back because I know he lost it for a
I
little
know he
bit.
lost it, and
They were
maybe
going with David Robertson, I think it was something like that.
yeah,
Uh,
I'm checking.
older dude.
Let's
Uh,
see here. What do we got?
but he may
He
have gotten it back now that they're back in the stretch run and all that. So don't.
Yeah, they haven't had much sale opportunities of late, but yeah,
Yeah, they
I don't.
went through that. They were blowing everybody out of the water.
Hmm. I see Reed Garrett got a blown save recently. Edwin Diaz got a loss recently.
Amir Garrett, isn't he
R-
also in the
no, there's a Reed Garrett
Reed
apparently.
Garrett?
There's a Reed Garrett. I'll be honest, I don't know much about the guy. I'm trying to figure out what the usage has been, but I'm not seeing it. So let me go back to depth chart. So according to this thing, roster resource, uh, Diaz is the ninth inning guy.
Okay.
They also got options in Jose Buto, Phil Maton, Reed Garrett, Ryan Stanek, Danny Young, Adam Ottavino, Alex Young, and Huascar Brazoria.
Ottavino, that's the guy, not Robertson. Ottavino, that's the guy I
Yeah,
meant earlier. I
yeah.
always confuse those guys, Ottavino and Robertson.
Okay.
I don't know why the names don't sound familiar, but I think it was a Yankee thing. I think it's because I confused them.
But you're right. There is some a little bit of committees. Ryan Stanek has 7 saves. Is there
Yeah,
injured guys in here? Brooks Raley would be the
the
main.
neck isn't that guy used to play for Atlanta, right?
Who? Brooks Raley?
No, Ryan Stanek.
I know him from the Rays
Yeah, I know him. I think yeah, from not the Rays, the
and the
Astros. The
Astros.
Astros. That's what he played
That's what
for.
it was.
Yeah, he was.
So Ryan Stanek has 7 saves, so he's second on the team with 4 saves. You're right. It is Reed Garrett. Oh my goodness, 80 strikeouts and 55 and 1/3 innings pitched. That's crazy. And then the
That's
other
pretty
guys,
insane.
yeah, and then the other guys with the 3 saves, Jose Buto and Phil Maton. Phil Maton, also from the Houston Astros, if I remember correctly. I'll double check. Might have been, But yeah, these guys they get around, bro. These guys they get around.
I still give the ball to Sugar at the end. If I have a lead, I still give it to Edwin until he blows that first save in the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, you might have to. Uh, but they do have options. I mean, there's a
I
reason
mean,
why
how do you justify paying a guy that kind of money and not giving
well,
him a
how do you
chance? You know,
justify sitting Corbin Carroll?
I,
It all
I
goes.
mean,
I thought we weren't gonna do fantasy and real baseball combination or intertwining them anymore.
well,
Uh,
they do intertwine a lot.
the last save opportunity was 9-11 and 909. Those were the last two saves that Edwin Diaz has gotten.
Okay.
So, but yeah, he goes long stretches without any save opportunities. He previous before that,
Yeah.
901 against the White Sox of all teams.
Oh my. Well,
Yeah, he looks like he struck out the side. Yes, he struck out the side, so he was dominant against a piss poor team. Uh, but yeah, the save opportunities don't seem to be coming a lot for this guy, and I don't know if the Mets are that good or they've just been on offensive tear. Uh,
They did win 9 straight at one point, so
yeah, so that'll help.
that will help. You know, when you don't just win 9 straight 2-run games. You know, when you win 9 straight, there's gonna be some blowouts in there.
Other players on your team that you drafted. I complain about the guys I drafted in the middle rounds. Well, here are the guys you drafted in the middle rounds. In the eighth round was Yuri Perez. In the ninth round was Joe Ryan. In the 10th was Spencer Torkelson. Perez out for the year. Ryan eventually was out for the year. And Torkelson, he's not looking like the
Not
highly
looking
touted
like the first
prospect.
round draft pick he was.
Yeah. And
He
then
was
you
my
get
I remember him because I think it was either I in one of these leagues, I one time I drafted him out of the gate and he was my first baseman. I told him, hey, let's go. And I had to pull him back because he just could not get it, you know. So
and then you made up for it in the 11th, 12th, and 13th round by getting the three horsemen right here: Stephen Kwan, Brandon Nimmo, Anthony Santander, who, as much as I want to bash, he does provide counting stats.
he was my steal of the year. That's like at 15 in the
13th round,
15th round, like 40 home
13,
runs in the 15th round.
13,
That's you can't sneeze at that one.
13th round, 13th round. Don't exaggerate.
13th round,
13th
yeah,
round.
13th round, 40 home runs though. That's a lot. A
Kyber
lot of
Ruiz
home
and
runs out there that late.
J.P. Crawford was your 15th round pick. Nolan
JP
Gorman,
Crawford, that he was my first, and he got hurt in the beginning. I
he
remember
did.
that.
Yeah.
He just could not come back from. I had to move on from him at shortstop.
Were you happy with you, Darvish, this season?
Uh no, no. I think he started getting hammered at some point, and I had to let him go because
Starling
no.
Marte, he's also been a disappointment too,
Starlin
right?
Marte, yeah. Yeah, I had to do a lot of surgery to this team.
Yeah.
I just at some point I found a good mix of guys, but I did a lot of cosmetic surgery in this team because a lot of times like you said, your players got hurt, my players got hurt, but his players started dropping.
Yeah, and I mean I can go through my list of things, but we'll be here all night. But the other guy I wanted to mention was Brian Abreu, who was really high. And you asked me, weren't you high on certain bullpen guys? Yeah, Brian Abreu was one of those guys in a Holtz league, and
Abreu.
he sucked. And I don't know if he was ever picked up again. Well, let me see. I think I can check that here on the website. Let's see who had him last. On June 17th, Noah's team picked him up off free agency.
Oh wow.
So, and that must mean that he stayed with him the entirety of the year. So I guess he did better after we gave up on him. I don't know, but 36 holds, yeah, I can see why he stayed on that team for a while. 100 strikeouts. Oh wait, yeah, 100 strikeouts. What? Seasons,
Wow.
look, it says, okay, I'm reading ESPN. He's pitched 224 innings this year. That doesn't sound right. What the hell,
Wow.
ESPN? He did not pitch 222 innings. You're crazy. All right. 74 games played this year. Okay, that'll work. And 36 holds. Okay, so that's accurate. 73 innings pitched. That's more,
That's more. Yeah, that's
yeah,
more
like it.
what I
100
did.
strikeouts. So I can see why Noah Miller was able to keep him around for a very long time, even to my surprise, because I remember that I picked him up, I drafted him in the Baseball Life League, and he was awful for me, just
Hmm.
awful. So it's good to see that he bounced back. But you
Yeah, a
cut
lot of
him.
these pitchers, you just got to figure out how patient you want to be with them in what league.
Yeah. Max Kepler's another guy that
Max Kepler.
hoping. I mean, he did pretty well for me last year, and I was expecting more of the same as a sneaky late round draft pick, just like the way you picked him here. I picked him up in the Baseball Life League, drafted him in the Baseball Life League really late in that draft,
Yeah.
and even his biggest struggle was the extreme shifts as a left-handed hitter. Extreme shifts, he was just so predictable, automatic out. Well, these shifts are gone. He had a kind of a bounce back year last year. You get to 2024 and he sucks again.
Ah,
Explain that one.
game will catch you, man.
I'm
The
sorry,
game's
what?
gonna catch you. The game's
Games.
gonna catch you at some
Yeah.
point. You know, I used to have a coach that said that the game's gonna catch you, man. I mean, you can have a streak, you can have, and then the game's gonna catch you. So that's just one of those things.
You know what pisses me off about this is that we're not even doing anything. We're not reinventing the wheel here, right? We're not trying to dig deep for these players. There's how many players would you say are in Major League Baseball roster? About 900, maybe
900, yeah, 25
thereabouts.
times 30, yeah.
We only want a chunk of them.
Right.
We're only this is a 27 roster team. It's only 12 teams. How much is that? I mean, you're the math guy. I need a calculator. How many
312,
players? 12 times 27, I think it was.
12 times 27.
Yeah.
That's 270, 290. That's about 320. Put 320.
Yeah. So we're only asking for a third
Yeah.
of the best players. So
Of the best players in the world. Yeah.
and we and it's still unpredictable. We're still getting more wrong than right.
Still getting more wrong than right. Yeah.
And if we're getting more wrong than
Game
right,
of
imagine
failure.
these. Right, we're batting 300, right?
The game of failure.
That's what I've been saying all along. It's a game of failure. That's what I told my friend's kid. Like he struck out like 4 times in one little league game, and hey, man, don't. It's a game of failure.
Game of failure.
You work the count. That's all you could do. Next
Yeah,
time you'll get them.
that's right.
But yeah, it's a game of failure. Even when you're shortening the rosters, even with all this prep work that we do, and when you're shortening the rosters, we don't want we don't want to study 900 players. We really want to study 300 players, just a
300
third.
players. Yeah.
And imagine how these franchises are when it's time to draft in the amateur draft, and their careers are on the line. Like if Paul Skeens doesn't do shit this year for the Pirates, Nutty's gonna have a field day firing everybody.
Right.
But he came through. But then
Right.
for every Paul Skeens, I mean, who would you say is a failure right now? We just talked about a former. Oh, Spencer Torkelson.
Torkelson. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what the crazy thing about Torkelson is that everything you look at his baseball savant numbers, some of his savant numbers,
Everything should work.
everything should be working. Yes.
Yeah. Everything
Oh,
should be working.
I don't get it. I just don't get it with that kid. He should be beating the crap out of the ball, and
Baseball's cruel, man. It's very cruel.
it's even in
cruel
fantasy
game.
circles, it's a cruel mistress.
It's a cruel business, man.
Yeah. Well, that is I mean, any last words about this championship run that you want to
Oh
share with
man,
us?
I mean, great, great group of guys, great season. Appreciate all of y'all for bearing with all my idiosyncrasies and everything. And look forward to we got next year. We got some guys that we're shuffling around. So hopefully we don't scare them off with our craziness too much.
I mean, it's gonna get crazy.
We look forward to the new format, the new change. Life is about evolving.
That is the attitude I want to hear, man, from everybody in this league.
Life is about moving forward, man.
We got to move forward.
We gotta move forward. We gotta be innovative. We can't run stale. So
damn right. I love that attitude. That's all I'm talking about, man. I mean, if I'm gonna be spending all this time with you guys, might as well
make it worth something.
make it worth. Number one, make it worth something, obviously. But number two, I mean, I have a vision in my head, and if I didn't see the effort from the 11 guys that are in this league, I wouldn't be bothering. But I do see potential, and I see, you know what? Wouldn't it be cool if we take it up a notch? Why do we limit ourselves at ESPN when I know for a fact that Fantrax is a much better website? And how awesome would it be if we can do semi-weekly league instead of a weekly league?
Hey, we gotta try. We gotta evolve, and if we gotta reassess, then we reassess, man. But
and if these guys are as and my other question is, if these guys are as hardcore of baseball fans as they say they are, and I mean, you saw the standings at the end. This is a very competitive league.
Yes,
it came down to the last game of the regular season.
Anyone could beat you in a game. Like even Even the guy, and I love this dude. This my dude, man. Nyland, but I always say, man, hey, even Nyland can beat me one day because I know Nyland and I have this thing going
He
on.
beats me all the time.
But yeah, yeah, anybody can beat anyone at any point. Like, and sometimes it's the guy that, let's say that you're in the, man, I really need this game this week, and that guy in 11th place just comes, bam, smacks you because they know how to move their players. So
Yeah. But that was my point. I mean, it's competitive elite, but I mean, these guys have proven that they can hold their own.
that's
Let's
right.
take up a notch. Well, why not go after minor league players and see
That's
if they
right.
can
It
draft for
helps
this?
you. It helps you follow. Like I was telling my
Yeah,
wife yesterday, I like fantasy baseball because even when your favorite team is in the crud, like ours is right now and are right now,
yeah,
then you still have something to watch for. You still have something to, you know. For example, one of my prospects from the minor leagues and in the Mardi Gras League, Caneglione,
yeah.
he just got signed to my winter league team in Ponce in Puerto
Oh,
Rico. He's gonna play
nice.
in the winter league. So I wouldn't know who that guy was had I not drafted him, and he's like the number 13th prospect. So, that's baseball life, and that's what baseball cosmos is about, and those are the brands we're creating, and we just gotta keep moving forward, man. We gotta
Absolutely. And that's what I was
no
getting
no no
to.
change is bad.
And that's what I was getting to as well. I mean, um, we already know that these guys, in the league, in the ESPN, the Total Basis Podcast League, we all know that they know how to pick for the short term. It's a redraft league, right? There's no keepers involved here. But what if there were keepers involved? And like, why not test their mettle when it comes to minor league players and picking the right prospects? And
It'll
wouldn't it
help
be
you. It'll
interesting?
help you at least check the 500 prospect list,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, and at least helps you familiarize with those coming up, and trading for minor leaguers really put me in a good spot in the other league. Like, I had Sal Basayo, which is a really high touted catcher.
Yeah, we talked about
I
them. Yeah.
I gave him up for a couple of pitchers that really pitched some really really hard innings for me in that other league, Severino and Musgrove, both.
Hmm.
So, but then I was able to pick up Caniglione too. So, not Canigli. I'm saying Caniglione because that's the broadcaster from Boston, but that's his name. It sounds like his name sounds like it's Caniglione, something like that. Um,
I
but
guess I'll look into it.
Jack Caniglione. I bet you that's his name. Coniglione.
Uh, and he plays for the Red Sox too. What?
He plays for the Royals,
Oh, the
but
Royals.
the Royals, but the other name I'm thinking about is the the Red Sox announcer who just announced his retirement. Castiglione. Joe Castiglione is the guy from the Red Sox, and then my player is Caniglione. A lot of lot of
Italian surnames.
Italian surnames
I'm
going
sure
on.
Vince will
Yeah.
be proud. Yeah, Jack Caglia. Now I can't say it. But yeah, Jack with a C only.
Jack with a C only. Yeah. Josh
Caglianone, I guess.
Caglianone.
You're right. First baseman for the Kansas City Royals prospect.
So,
Um, I was gonna say though, yeah, even when Mookie Betts was hurt for me this past year in this league, and it's a redraft league. So why is Felipe excited and giddy about getting these prospects? It's a redraft league. Who cares? You're not keeping these players forever. It's what's the point? Well, Colt Keith, I was high on coming into this season. I actually cut him because he was so bad, but I was able to pick him up again. He solidified my second base spot when Marcus Semien was sucking,
oh
and
my.
Junior Caminero came on. I know the final numbers don't show it, but at one point he was hitting everything in sight when he first got called up by the Tampa Bay Rays. And I had him on my top 5 minor league prospect list coming into the season. So he helped a lot. The guy who's helped me solidify my outfield, James Wood. Another guy
James
who
Wood, yeah.
another guy who helped me solidify my outfield was Lawrence Butler, who I actually forgot that I had him in
Lawrence
my
Butler.
Lawrence Butler from the Oakland Athletics. I had him in my original top minor league prospects coming into the season that I should look at, and I forgot all about it. But number 48, I had forgotten I ranked him number 48 coming to the season.
Yeah,
Lawrence Butler.
Lawrence Butler. I think he spent some time with me in the Mardi Gras League. I had to let him go because I forgot why, but I did not want to let him go. But I had to let him go because I needed a roster spot or something. Somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
But or but he did spend some time with me in the other league, and that kid looks good. I like him. I like Lawrence Butler.
Another young prospect, Jackson Holiday, eventually got called up again, and he got off to a really good start coming back, and he looked like he had things figured out.
Figured out
Unfortunately, it is baseball, so he
the
was once
rough game.
again,
Hmm.
yeah, got humbled a little bit. He still did better than
But he's
Kobe
still
Mayo.
young. He's still 21, right?
Well, I was gonna say he still did better than Kobe Mayo did when he got called up the 2 times that
Oh
he was called up.
yes, Moby Mayo. Goodness.
Former Orioles prospect and now Marlins player Connor Norby. I didn't get to play him, but the only reason I picked him up was so you wouldn't get him. I guess it didn't matter because he's been, also humbled in the last week or
Right.
so.
It's
Uh,
a humbling game, man.
it-
It's just
yeah.
brutal.
Well, the thing I wanted to share about Norby is that he strikes out way too much, swings on a lot of pitches, but when he does connect, he does hit the ball very hard, but he very low contact rate. So he needs to shore up that aspect before teams figure him out and he becomes the next Javier Baez out there.
Javier Baez, yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
But yeah,
Whew. The
but
tail of that
that's
dude, I tell you.
but that's where the inspiration comes from to tick it up a notch. And this fan track, we're going to fan tracks next year, is like, no, it's time for these guys to not just think about the short term, but also think about the long term,
Of
and
course. Yeah, I mean,
see if. Go ahead.
we're just trying to make it a better experience, and
Yeah.
we're trying to, not just it's bigger than just the league, it's just a group of acquaintances with something in common, and we get to enjoy it together, and the experience will be, I think will be great. Will be better, man.
Yeah,
So
I look forward to
appreciate
it.
you for thinking forward to it, and thank you for
Oh, thanks, man.
making it what it want to become. And we'll
I
be
like it.
here. We'll be here for it.
I appreciate it. I know like not everybody agree with it, and that's my one regret is that I talked to Angel about it. It's just sad that some of the original guys aren't coming with us, but not for a lack of trying. I mean, I had a vision. I share that vision. Majority of the group wanted to be a part of that vision, but it wasn't for everybody, and I get that. It's not
And
for
not
everybody.
everything is for everyone. So
Yeah, but I'm not my at the end of the day, I don't want to have this passion and guys not match my energy when it comes to this hobby of mine. Well, it's our hobby really,
right.
but if I got to be the leader and igniter of where this thing moves, then I'll be that guy. But it helps a lot when you have support of the other majority of the guys. You know what I mean? It helps a
Yes,
lot,
sir. And
and
looking forward to it, man.
I wouldn't bother going the full extra, what do they call the extra mile, if I didn't feel that support. So I think guys like you and everybody else, Angel, Alex, Noah, who's going to be my co-commissioner, he's already said yes to it. Well, what is it a co-commissioner does? Like, bro, it's more like customer service. That's going to be your job, and I'm going to lean on you for other things as well. So get ready. And Noah has he's done some things for me in other ventures where I know I can trust the kid. So he's a good guy, good kid. Um, and I know I can trust him in certain things, even though I don't know him that long. I feel like there is that rapport that I have with the kid, even though we're like, I mean, he's so much younger than I am,
Right.
but he's already proven himself that he can be dependable, and that's all I'm looking for. I need someone who's dependable, someone who, whenever I message him, he'll answer right away. And so far, that he's been that guy, so
That's
that helps
great,
a
man.
lot. It really does. And he has no family. I mean, in terms of like kids, and he has
Right,
he
right.
has flexible working hours, and
Got all the time in the I
and
envy him. He's got all the time in the world to give to this,
and
man.
he's on the West Coast. He's in Las Vegas, so I'm not like waking him up in the middle of the night. No, he's still trying to finish up his night as maybe having dinner or something. While I'm like, hey, I have this thought at 11 o'clock at night Central Time. But I know you're
Right.
still up here. It's only 9 over there. What do you think if dot dot dot? So that's a key. Um, but yeah, I that's all it is. I have this vision, I have this passion. I notice that you guys have the same passion. Why not share that vision with you guys? All of you guys agreed. Let's take it another notch. Let's take another level up. together, and trust me, it's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of
Okay,
fun. It's
we're
going to be
looking
a new
forward to it, man.
dynamic, new
Looking,
dynamic.
looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And once again, let the folks know where they can find your endeavors there.
The Baseball Cosmos. We're on all sorts of social media. Uh, we cover all the winter leagues in the English language. We cover the winter leagues in Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Mexico, Panama, the Caribbeans, and all those winter leagues. All the champions of all those winter leagues will meet in the Caribbean series, which will have a guest team from Japan this year.
Mm.
But that's a way of growing the game. So the Winter League champion from Japan is going to meet the Winter League champions of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Mexico, and Venezuela. So it's going to be a 5-team Caribbean series this year. So it's going to be innovative again. A lot of people are not liking it because that just gives more incentive for the team from the Caribbean to actually show up and not let the team from Asia beat you. That just makes competition better. But it happens in Copa America. Copa America, you have Team Qatar come and play, so it's fine. It's how the game grows. It's how it moves, and it's also a monetary thing that the teams have to pay a fee to compete, and the team from Japan is going to bring its fee with them. So it's the way you grow the game is by monetizing a lot of it, and it's what it is. But yes, the baseball cosmos, we are in Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and wherever else Bark doesn't that lets your kid watch. That's where we are. That Bark is an app. For those of you who don't have teenagers yet, you will know that app when your child becomes a teenager. It's about Bark Technologies. Yes,
Oh,
the kids have. I'm a believer that kids have no privacy until they're 18, so it's okay.
looking forward
Yes,
to that.
find us in any form of social media. The Baseball Cosmos. If you wanna, there's a lot of players that are used to play in the major leagues, that play in the winter leagues, and a lot of prospects that are honing their skills in the winter leagues. We follow all of them all year round from all over. We also had a chance to cover baseball, Home Run Derby X, caught up with Pedro Alvarez, a couple of the other players that Nick Swisher also we were able to give a shout out to. So anyway, catch us up and see what's up. We have about 3,000 followers, so
Nice.
clearly I'm not that crazy alone. I got 3,000 other crazy people with me. So anyway, we'd love to see you and give us a like, give us a follow, and have some fun with us.
I just realized that I'm facing Shohei Ohtani in the Mardi Gras League
Oh
and
my.
also in the Baseball Life League.
Oof. Well,
The
you got some
Dodgers
points against you today, dude.
the Dodgers won 20-4 against the Marlins.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, do you know what his line was?
I'm gonna read it right now, man.
Bro, he
Six
went
for
6 for 6.
two
Oof.
doubles, 3 home runs, 10 RBI, 4 runs, 2 stolen bases. This is what dreams are made of. 35 whopping points
In one game.
in one game. And
That's something.
obviously the
That's
other
a
league,
perfect game. That's what a player would get for a 9 inning perfect game shutout.
I believe so, yeah.
I
And
think I think
that's
when I think I got a no hitter from somebody. I think from when Dylan Cease got his no hitter,
yeah.
he gave me 31 points in the game. So that's a no hitter from a pitcher right there.
Yeah.
From a perfect game from a pitcher.
I actually thought he was pitching again because I saw 35 points. Like, is he pitching again? No way.
No, that's all
Mm,
offense, man.
It's all offense. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's over. You know how I told you I knew it was over when Cody Bradford shat the bed.
Oh
This
yeah.
this might be my Waterloo moment, and
That
it's not
that's
just,
your
well, it's not just
that.
him. I mean, Jack Flaherty got 20 points against me. Chris Sale got 18 points against me,
Ooh.
and I'm in trouble.
Well,
I'm in
in the
trouble.
playoffs, you play the best teams, man. So
Yeah, but I really felt I had a Cinderella thing happening here. Well, I guess must be midnight somewhere. And then, of course, in the other league, and not to, yeah, it's harder to gauge what what the impact it is over there. But I was winning 13-11 coming into this night. Now I'm down 12-11. Because as you know how category league works is, oh my God. My opponent has 21 hits against me already. I only have 7
oh my.
today
I gotta
only.
take you with me. So hold on.
Yeah, no, but we're finishing up here. Thank you so much for joining. I'll wrap it up here. Uh, you heard where Melvin, you can find Melvin at Baseball Console over there at Facebook. You make sure to check out the Baseball Life Facebook group. Check us out on YouTube, on Spotify, under the Life Group podcast banner. For Felipe, that is Melvin. We will see you next time. Have a good one, everybody.
Have a good one.